Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Bobby C here, back with another custom handgun quick look. And today I am showing off my Bob Marvel Model Full House Custom. This is actually one of 3 Nighthawk prototype guns that was turned into Nighthawk, which eventually became the Bob Marvel model that Nighthawk currently offers today. This project came about when Sean Armstrong, who worked for Bob, eventually moved over to Nighthawk, and those two started having conversations, and a collaboration gun was thought up, and eventually, as mentioned, became the Nighthawk model. Quickly, you can see just by the looks of the firearm, there are a ton of crossovers between what you see in the Bob Marvel Nighthawk model and this actual full house Bob Marvel model that is sitting here today. The 3 prototype guns are all 3 excellent examples of Bob's work. One of them is documented well on YouTube, so if you're interested in seeing another version of this, there is some other YouTube videos floating around out there. I have this one, which I believe is the very first version, and then my friend has the last version, which comprises of many more actual Nighthawk parts, is a stainless gun, and is in 9mm. So also a very cool example of Bob's work. So for the quick look, I'll just jump up front here. You have a bull barrel style barrel. You have a flush cut barrel as well. There's no crown on this, and then you just have your full length guide rod as well as plug. Up front, you will see a minor bob nose package. Bob nosing is something I personally am a huge fan of. I believe that it really looks great on the 1911 stylistically, but I also believe that it really does aid in reholstering your firearm. So it not only looks great aesthetically, it also provides some functionality upgrades as well. Bob Marvel is not the only person who has done a bob nose package. Guys like Chuck Rogers and several others have incorporated that into their builds. This one's a bit less dramatic than what you'd see on Chuck's work, but at the same time it's still present. You also see 3 horizontal lines up front. Those lines are synonymous with Marvel shop. You see guys like Joe Chambers, I've seen Eric Mercier and a handful of others incorporate a version of those lines into their own work. So it's really cool just to see where these kind of started, and then what the lineage of Bob's shop has kind of passed down to current builders. If you want to call them Nebraska builders or whatever, that's fine. This firearm is extremely straight. The lines on this are damn near perfect. There is nothing's trailing off, nothing's really not addressed. The lines on this firearm are fantastic. I don't know if the gun or the slide and frame came from Caspian like that, or if Bob addressed all those on his own. But what I will say is, seeing a firearm that dates back into pre-2010, it's refreshing to see that, because sometimes those things weren't being addressed or even thought of as an important thing to look at back then. That brings me to a lot of the dehorning. So this trigger guard is perfectly dehorned. The lines are still there, but there's no sharpness. I see guys even currently who really struggle with understanding the right amount of dehorning and how to execute that properly. So to see a firearm that was built back in, let's just call it 2008, and which was released out to Nighthawk, and that project kind of coming to fruition in 2012 to 14 or so, to see that some little detail like that is impressive to me personally. This firearm originally came with some smooth presentation grade grips, but for me, I really like the look of these rail scale carbon fiber grips on this firearm. These grips have become a personal favorite of mine. Many of my custom guns are now wearing this style of grip, and I just feel like, you know, it aids in just in being able to grip the firearm and having, you know, a firearm stay locked into your hand properly versus smooth grips. Smooth grips are great. They can make a custom 1911 or really any gun almost look like a Rolls Royce. But when you switch out to something like this, in my opinion, you get a transformation from Rolls Royce to Ferrari or McLaren. It just completely changes the look. Both equally nice, but for me and stylistically for what I prefer, these are kind of the winner. Obviously, I still have those original grips that are documented on the build sheet for this from Bob. But you know, for me, I would rather take that functionality and clean look versus just pure smooth grips. This has a 30 lines per inch checkering. The checkering is very well done on both the front strap and the mainspring housing of this firearm. It's still extremely sharp. There is no knockdown of the tips of the checkering, which again, for a firearm that was built pre-2010, to me is really a nice thing to have, because with carrying, with wear, a lot of times checkering can get knocked down. It loses a little bit of the effectiveness in terms of the grip, but at the same time, this is a very, very well preserved piece of history, in my opinion. This looks to be a Nighthawk trigger. The fit on it from Bob is phenomenal. There is no play whatsoever, up and down or side to side. It is locked in the way you would expect a full custom handgun to have. So, you know, again, props on that to him. Typical Bob Marvel style slide stop. To me, this is something that when I see it, just yells Bob Marvel to me. And a small feature that a lot of people don't know is up. It's going to be hard for me to film this, but up here at the front of the slide stop, anytime Bob himself was building, he would oftentimes angle that slide stop down. It was just a signature thing that he would do. It identified him doing the work versus possibly one of his apprentices in the shop. And by no means is that a knock on anything. You know, the lineage of the Marvel apprentices is documented out there. And all those builders went on to be extremely fine craftsmen in their own right. You have a traditional Colt teardrop thumb safety. For me, this is probably my least favorite part of the firearm. It's still a bit sharp here on the ledge, which can tend to eat into your hand a little bit. But like I said, I think that you know, in the other versions of this Marvel model, this was the prototypes at least, this here was addressed quickly and changed, and I think that makes sense, because for me, that thumb safety in terms of functionality versus what the gun is doesn't necessarily go perfectly together. Aesthetically on this one, it looks really good, but at the same time, I think from a function standpoint, I'm glad to see that evolved over the second and third versions of this firearm. Bob chose an STI grip safety. STI grip safety has never been my thing, but at the same time, again, it definitely looks proper on this variant of what they were doing. With that said, it is fully hand blended, and it's really, really well executed. So again, going back to 2008, 2009, maybe even a little bit before that is when the work probably started on this one. I'm very, very happy with the quality of work that I see in this one. If we go kind of to the back of the firearm, you can see those exacting standards to what Marvel's shop's known for. There's a lot of times that when folks look at the slide to frame fit, the barrel fit and so forth on a Nebraska style or Marvel style gun, They're oftentimes thought to be unrealistic or exaggerated. But as an owner of many firearms from the custom 1911 world, done by many top tier smiths, I can tell you, and I truly believe, that the Marvel model and numbers that are used truly do deliver the tightest fit 1911 that I personally have experienced. I'm not saying that there's not other bullseye gunsmiths out there that don't achieve a tighter frame fit or slide to frame fit or barrel fit or any of that stuff. But with that said, I'm not necessarily sure how much tighter or better fit in terms of barrel lockup a firearm can be produced at. So if there are folks out there that are doing that or claiming that they can top a Nebraska style or a Marvel shop gun in terms of the tolerances, then I would certainly love to see that. That's not to say that there are not other philosophies in building 1911s. There are several folks who build a custom 1911 that don't necessarily think that you need those tolerances and still truly do deliver an exceptional 1911. 1911s that are extremely accurate, 100% reliable, and as smooth as butter. So again, I always appreciate the different philosophies when it comes to, full custom guns and the shops they come out of. With that said, you obviously see the Bob Marvel logo there. That star for me is just a star that, whenever I see it, the firearm instantly piques my interest. You don't see a lot of full house custom Bob Marvel guns flying around out there, and I'm very fortunate to own quite a few of them. You see the signature enhanced cocking serrations of, that originated with Bob Marvel. They've been carried over to guys like Joe Chambers and a few others. To me, they just look very cool, especially on a high polished 1911. Speaking of the Marvel Star, that logo is traditionally located on the ejection port side up near the front of the firearm. However, given that this has those horizontal lines, there would be no real place that you could engrave that star on the ejection port side. So that's why you see it where it's at now. And to me, it looks really good. Very reminiscent of the placing of the 50 style roll marks of a Colt. So with that said, we'll go ahead and take a look at the ejection port side. I apologize, this has got some smudging on it, but it just kind of is what it is. Nothing majorly different. I do have a very small blemish right there, which kind of drives me crazy, but at the same time, I think it's just one of those things that if you kind of blink your eye and you take your attention away from care and maintenance on a firearm, those little things can happen. It's not the end of the world, but at the same time, I really wish it wasn't there. Figured I'd call it out because I'm sure it's visible in the video. With that said, this firearm does feature a very unique barrel. This is a Smith & Wesson Performance Shop MTU barrel, and anyone that's familiar with the old school Smith & Wesson Performance Center shop will and can attest that they were building some of the finest firearms for the time of them putting out the stuff that they were. With that said, those MTU barrels were very unique. The upper barrel lugs were extremely deep. They were extremely pronounced and sharp, and the bottom barrel lugs, where the slide stop meets them, was a bit longer. So you have a longer bearing surface with this barrel, which oftentimes can lead to smoother and less recoil, or a perceived performance improvement in terms of a softer shooting gun and better lockup, better barrel fit. I don't know personally if that's all 100% accurate. All I can tell you is the stuff that I've read over the years on those barrels, and what I tend to be the consensus from other folks who have used that, or why those barrels were chosen. That would be the only reason that in my opinion, Bob would choose this barrel over a cart barrel, unless this was just an extra barrel that he had laying around the shop that wasn't being used, and he found and saw an opportunity to put it in something like this, being a prototype, figuring that it would never potentially reach the public or a customer. So with that said, it does not bother me. That barrel is an extremely quality barrel. It really does shoot very, very nice and soft, and I have no issues with that being in this firearm over a cart barrel. With that said, this firearm also features a tritium front sight. At this point, that tritium has died out. You have a more tactical style rear blade on the buried and protected adjustable sight, and this is this one comes from Champion. So again, this is very typical in terms of what you would see out of Bob Marvel's shop. The last thing I'll call out is just the the arrow pattern atop the firearm. Very nicely done. It's a very classy look. I have a handful of other Marvel firearms that have a very similar Aztec or arrow pattern as this, and I really do like it. It just keeps that traditional round topping, keeps it looking very good. If I could change that to a Marvel pattern cut, I would absolutely do that, if it was my choice in terms of what was incorporated into this firearm. With that said, because this was the first of the three, I think Bob was just seeing what features Nighthawk liked and wanted, and obviously this all eventually changed over time. I believe the second one has this same Aztec pattern. I believe the checkering is an Aztec pattern with stippling, and then on the third one you have a full Marvel pattern cut on the front strap, the mainspring housing, and the top. Again, it is very cool for me to be able to see the evolution of the three firearms, from what it started as gun number one, what it moved to as gun number two, and then what it looked like as gun number three in the stainless version in 9mm, enhanced with some additional Nighthawk parts. But with that said, that's a little piece of Nighthawk and Bob Marvel history that I wanted to share. Again, I think this is a beautiful example of Marvel's work, one that I'm super fortunate to own, and one that I'm certain not a lot of people know about in terms of the lineage and the history. There may be things that I'm missing, there may be things that I'm even misstating, but based on the research, the documentation, the paperwork, and the conversations that I've had with others who were either involved in this project or tied to this project, this is what I came away with. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was educational and fun. I hope it showed off features the features that you wanted to see close enough. And if there's any feedback, I'd love to hear it. If there's things that you guys would like to see me do in my videos when I'm filming, I'd love to hear that. Again, don't forget, I am not a professional videographer. I do this for fun. I'm not looking to make money off a YouTube channel. I'm simply trying to show off really, really cool, rare 1911s, drop a little bit of history and knowledge, as well as just talk about my favorite builders and share that with the world. So there are other guys that they completely slay it and crush it with tons of shop history, showing off, shooting, racking slides, taking stuff apart. Really not the intended purpose of what I do. At the same time, if you guys want to see specific things, please let me know, and if I can incorporate those, I'd be happy to. So again, thanks so much for riding along with me on this one, and stay tuned for the next one. Chat soon, guys.